What is up, everybody? It is me, DevilNeverCry, and this is a summary of the Devil May Cry Drama CD Volume 2. For those of you that don't know what the drama CDs are, they are anecdotal, short side stories about Dante and his friends, of course set in the DMC universe, and they tell the tale of what Dante gets up to when he's not on screen. They're simply there to provide context to the DMC world and flesh out some of the surrounding lore. Some of you longtime fans of the channel will know that I've touched upon the first volume quite a bit, discussing Machiavelli, the demon gunsmith said to almost rival Sparda, as well as Enzo and Dante and his debt, and what exactly he does with some of his weapons. But we're not talking about Volume 1 today, we are finally talking about Volume 2. Most of you may not know that these have existed, and I don't necessarily blame you. These audio dramas are fairly unknown in the DMC community thanks to a lack of an English translation. Until now, that is. And so before we begin, I do want to give a big shout out and thank you to fellow DMC content creator Kalina Ann and her community. They essentially crowdfunded a localization for this product. The Volume 2 of the audio drama CD has been available since 2008. Capcom obviously weren't going to put this into English, so to speak, so the community stepped up to the plate. So again, big thank you and huge shout out. Links to Kalina Ann's channel will be in the description. Definitely check them out if you are interested in DMC content, especially if you are a native Spanish speaker. With all that said and done though, let's get into the audio drama CD. Volume 2 opens up with Dante and Morrison at the Devil May Cry office discussing Patty, as a matter of fact, considering that Patty consistently visits Dante and nags him. Morrison finds it strange that Patty hasn't been seen in a couple of days. And it is at this very moment that a woman comes barging into the office, hysterical, begging for help. Both Dante and Morrison seem quite nonchalant about the whole ordeal, as if they've seen this kind of behavior before. That is, until the lady introduces herself as the manager of the Angel's Home Orphanage, and that is when the mood in the office changes as they realize that this is the orphanage that Patty currently resides at. Morrison presses for more information, and we come to find out that the children at the orphanage have been sleeping for 3 days straight, and they refuse to wake up. And thus it finally makes sense to Dante why Patty hasn't been seen in a while. The scene flashes back 3 days to when Patty last visited the Devil May Cry office, where she seemed to be in an unusually good mood. When pressed about why she seemed so happy, it was because the orphanage would be receiving new beds, sent by a mysterious, kind and unknown philanthropist. Patty also seems to be quite happy because the children at the orphanage were upset with the manager for being a little too strict, and she hopes that these beds will help to put them in a good mood again. Flashing back to the present situation, we see Dante, Morrison, and the manager of the orphanage continue their conversation. When asked about the details of this supposed philanthropist, Morrison is immediately shocked. The person went under the name of Peter Pan, someone known for abducting children. Before the three characters leave the Devil May Cry office and head to the orphanage, Dante receives a phone call. Immediately upon picking up, Dante knows exactly who it is and has a peculiar task for them just before the scene ends. The scene then shifts to a dreamlike landscape, where this mysterious Peter Pan figure is running around and playing with the kids at the orphanage, where they're all in high spirits as they get to do whatever it is that they want. Stay up late, play all day, and eat whatever they want, without being scolded like the manager of the orphanage would do. All the kids from the orphanage really seem to be enjoying themselves, except for Patty, who Peter Pan notices immediately, stating that she shouldn't have such a long face because this is Neverland, where you can do whatever you want, as it's all an eternal dream. And as Patty continues to reject the so-called dream, Peter Pan bluntly states that any traitor who wishes to grow up and leave will be ripped to shreds. The scene phases back to the orphanage, where Dante, Morrison, and the manager have finally arrived. Upon entering the bedroom, Dante immediately notices a weak demonic power emanating from all of the beds. As Dante continues to explain the situation as best he can with the potential of a demonic dream world, Morrison requests that an extra bed be brought out for Dante, so that he of course can enter this dream world and see what is really going on. Dante begrudgingly agrees, but not without stating that the bed is absolutely tiny, and thus he lays his head to rest, attempting to enter the dream world. Not being great combatants themselves, Morrison and the manager of the orphanage stay behind, where we come to find out that the manager has been praying for the safe return of the kids for 3 nights in a row. Shifting back into the dream world, Peter Pan attempts to play off the situation as Dante being Captain Hook, going so far as to get all the animals in the area to attack Dante, to no avail of course, and even getting the infamous Peter Pan crocodile clock involved. However, Dante is absolutely unfazed by all that is happening, to the point where Peter Pan is left scurrying away after the crocodile turns on him. And with the kids witnessing everything that's happened, they begin to lose hope and even interest in the so-called Peter Pan. Some time passes, and Peter Pan finally makes his return, having narrowly avoided the crocodile. He begins to get flustered and infuriated at the fact that his powers don't seem to work on Dante in the dream world. Dante laments even being involved in this situation, and says Peter Pan is weaker than a marionette that he had once encountered in a peculiar castle. He takes aim with ebony and ivory and fires but a single bullet, dispelling the mirage that is Peter Pan's appearance. Peter Pan begins to age and shrivel in appearance, where the kids begin to taunt Peter Pan for being bold, smelly, greasy, and even ugly. The now disheveled demon begins to throw a temper tantrum, stating that his life isn't fair, that he was born a lowly demon with almost no power. Then he plays his trump card, where he decides to leave the dream world, thinking that he's left the kids trapped. The scene shifts to the demon waking up in his bed and grabbing a drink of water from the kitchen, and that's when he begins to hear a mysterious knock at his door. Just as he begins to believe that he's gotten away from it all and that Dante and the children will be forever trapped, Trish makes an appearance and decides to convince Peter Pan, shall we say, to let everyone go free. The scene cuts back to the orphanage, where Patty and the rest of the kids are waking up from Neverland. And a sudden realization sets in for the kids of the orphanage where, even though the manager can be very strict at times, they still miss her all the same. And with the closing scene of part 1, we have Patty and Morrison musing about Dante, who seems to be still sleeping, wondering if he's in Neverland, eating as much pizza as he wants. And that brings us to the end of the first story that's included on this audio drama CD. Now, we turn our attention to the second, where we see Dante being interrogated by a cop named McLean about a supposed murder that Dante is adamant that he did not commit. McLean, of course, isn't having any of it, stating that when Dante was arrested, he was carrying some pretty big weapons. Dante, being confused by the situation, demands a summary of what exactly he's being accused of. The scene then flashes back to a phone call that was made, where a man claims to have seen somebody be murdered at the Moonlight Bar, that they're too scared to go in there, and that they're going to go home, and they hope that the police will continue to investigate. However, when the police went to the crime scene, which was said to be only 30 minutes after the call was made, there was no blood whatsoever, and the victim's body had not been found. Flashing back to the interrogation, Dante scoffs at the fact that the police pretty much have no evidence whatsoever. McLean then goes on to state that the person in question who was supposedly murdered, basically the bar manager, is nowhere to be seen, which is highly suspicious. He then continues on to state that the person cannot be lying, as the call was recorded and the person's voice was analyzed. Dante, of course, continues to reinforce that he is innocent, as McLean leaves to go question a witness. The witness, aka Steve, then begins to recount to McLean what exactly happened that night from his perspective. He'd been sitting at the bar when Dante had sauntered on in, requesting, of course, his classic strawberry sundae. The bar manager refuses, stating that they do not serve that at the bar. But Dante, of course, continues to ask for the strawberry sundae, being a person who won't take no for an answer. The manager, of course, again reinforces that they would absolutely refuse to serve that at the bar, stating that it is an adult establishment. At this point, Steve finishes his drink and decides to leave, though he states that even after leaving, he can hear them arguing from outside the bar. His curiosity, of course, got the better of him though, and he decides to walk back and take a peek through the window, where he sees the bar manager unconscious on the floor with what seems to be blood splattered across his chest, and none other than Dante standing over him. Cutting back to the witness statement, McClane provides a picture of Dante wherein Steve immediately states that that is the person he saw kill the bar manager. At this point, Detective McClane realizes he is in a sticky situation. He believes Dante really did commit the murder, but there is no evidence to speak of. Even asking Dante what his profession is seems to be getting him a joke answer of killing demons. With no other options left to him, he begins to question Dante's known associates. He initially questions Morrison, the information broker, who leaves him with more questions than answers, though he can glean from what Morrison has told him that Dante's profession is rather dangerous. Next up to bat for questions is Lady, who almost leaves the police station because McClane mentions the name Arkham. This session of questions seems to be almost as useless as the one with Morrison, but McClane finds out that Dante has a fixation on strawberry sundaes and that he'll stop at nothing to get his hands on one, even if it means murder. Last on the list to be questioned is Patty, who has no issues stating that Dante kills demons for a living. McClane, of course, pays no attention to that, other than the fact that Dante is said to be violent when killing demons, and that there is lots of blood involved when he does so. With his questions getting him nowhere, the scene cuts back to McClane and Dante, where at this point, McClane is bluffing, stating that he has all the evidence he needs, and that he just wants to hear a confession come out of Dante. Dante sees right through this, of course, and states that McClane is going to do whatever Dante wants when he's finally proved to be innocent. And it is at this point that one of McClane's colleagues comes in stating that the body has turned up. And then in walks the bar manager completely unscathed, much to the surprise of everybody. He then goes on to explain that it was all a huge misunderstanding. He hadn't been missing or murdered, he'd simply left on vacation. And he hadn't been attacked either. He'd attempted to make the strawberry sundae for Dante, but slipped with an open can of strawberry jam. When he fell, he'd hurt his hip, leaving him immobilized but covered with strawberry jam, at which point Dante was attempting to help him up. And at that point, Steve had only seen the tail end of what had happened and assumed that there had been a murder. The scene finally cuts to Dante walking through the DMC office doors a free man, with Morrison, Lady, and Patty waiting there for him. Dante begrudgingly thanks the three for being honest, a little too honest at that, stating that he'd heard the recordings of the question sessions, stating that if only they'd said something simple like he's not somebody that would commit a murder, he would have been able to leave a whole lot sooner. And in the closing scene, we see Dante order a whole lot of strawberry sundaes, with Lady even questioning how he has the money to buy them. A grin flashes across Dante's face as he states that thanks to a certain detective, he'll now be able to eat as many sundaes as he can for the rest of the month. And somewhere in the police office, we see McClane cursing the fact that Dante is already spending money and sending him bills. And thus, we come to the end. The DMC Audio Drama CD Volume 2. Two very different stories there, might I add. One where there's a demonic dream world, which makes an appearance. Rather interesting, I suppose. And then we see Dante arrested in another, thanks to a simple misunderstanding and the fact that people can be too honest at times. But do let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I tried to summarize the stories as best I could, keeping in as much detail in there without being too wordy and literally reading out lines word for word, if that makes sense. But I hope all of you enjoyed these stories as much as I did. If you enjoyed today's video, do be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing, as it all helps out the channel. With all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I would like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.